Last summer, I had turned 21, and I was grown up. I was an adult officially in all countries all over the world. It doesn't generally feel so different, but when I was like you, when I was in high school, if you had asked to that girl, 18-year-old me, she would say that 20s are full of pain. Like, you finish your school, you start your job, and you probably get married, and some people have kids in their 20s. That's a lot of decisions to make, and I don't want to go through that. Now, this may sound a bit weird. This sounds weird to me now. Who does that? You know, who does panic for like 6 years after your state at that moment? I did it. And now I think, being in my 20s, it's actually nothing that to be terrified of. So I looked it up, and they actually call this fear of anticipation. I usually explain this with an example. I draw this from Snapchat. So imagine that there's a dagger hanging from the ceiling with a very thin rope, something like a fishing line, and your hand is underneath it. And you don't have a chance to move your hand. So, what if the rope breaks? You have several seconds before the dagger actually sticks into your hand. And those several seconds are the most painful ones. You would be like, you know, it's going to come and stick into my hand. And when it does, there's like a lot of blood all over the place. You see that it actually doesn't hurt that much. You can bear that. You can have it. So this is called fear of anticipation. Another thing that I realized that I do more often when I'm in 20s, that I do think more about why do I do what I do, and why have I done what I've done. So I look at my past, and I see like I'm 21 years old, and I have been studying for 15 years. Like, most of you will come to that stage, and it will actually pass to that total amount of time. But when you think, like in numbers, 15 years, if I have gone to China and stay there for like 15 years, learn Chinese, be an expert on culture of the China and even the cuisine of it, I could actually make a life for that, life with that to me. Like, I could make money with that, I could have a life. Instead, I'm a 4th-year medical student and I'm studying halal. And I'm trying to find like what I would like more. That I decided that I am into science. And I wanted to see the kitchen of it. Like the science, we measure things, we try to discover the facts about the world, facts about the universe. So I decided to go and study with one of my professors in a cell culture lab. I loved every piece of it, like to build up a thesis, how to design an experiment to test that thesis. But there was one thing that I didn't like. We had to keep record of everything. Like, we had to write down every piece we do. Even if we like look back, we write she looked back, you know, we have to record even that. And I didn't like it. And I realized that nothing comes in pure joy. And as I grow old, I have developed a high tolerance of doing boring stuff like that. I'm now immune to actually keeping records, just to get the joy of being in science and figuring out things. And when I was in high school, I remember my final year while I was studying to nationwide university entrance exam, I was pure out of my mind. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm studying, I'm going to school, I'm learning stuff, but I had no idea how it would end. I was lost in knowledge, and I was actually very, very unhappy. My brother was actually a bit more calm in these situations, and he was trying to help me. And he said that I looked like this girl when I was studying. And he was trying to raise my awareness of, how should I cope things, how should I approach things. And he would ask the question of, why do we go to school? Why do we do that? He's very good at, seeding ideas in my mind. So I started to think, why do we go to school? To have a job or to make money? We go to school because everyone does, I can see that, that none of these answers are that satisfying. throughout all the talks today, you know, we touched the education, and we know the gates we've seen, you know, Mark, they don't really go to school. You don't have to go to school, actually. There's no direct correlation between that. They don't give you a job because you've gone to school. They give you a job because you're good at it. Or you make money because you're successful at something, or whatever. So he was, you know, kind of my brother, was seeding, you know, ideas to my brain. I didn't get it anyway, you know. I just got my tests. I didn't know what I was doing. Zero consciousness level. I got my scores. They were good. So you don't really have to be aware of what you're doing in order to get a good score, actually. It's interesting that it happens. And next task to me was to decide, what do I want to do with my life? Like, I'm going to go into a faculty, but although I was a good student all my education life, I have graduated as a valedictorian from high school, but I didn't know what was my passion in this life, and school doesn't give you that, actually, not necessarily. So when you're trying to decide which career you should have or which occupation I'm going to choose, you try to like get to this win point, right? You try to find something what you love and, you know, the overlapping area of what pays well, what you're good at. That's the win point. But what it looks like to you when you're in that situation is like this. They don't overlap at all. Like what you love is something else, what you're good at is absolutely something else, and what pays well is like all another thing. I had to consider deliberately, so I did it. And I was the fortunate one that I decided that I can actually, I would love to, you know, be a psychiatrist and know the knowledge of psychiatry and practice it in my daily life. The problem is, you might want to be a doctor, you might want to be a psychiatrist, with all respect to your motive becoming a doctor. But you don't want to be a medical student. Because it requires many, many things, like you have to sacrifice from your life. People talk about being a medical student, oh, you're going to stay late at nights, you're going to, you know, your friends will have fun and you'll do nothing about it. And once again, I still didn't start with my medical faculty, but I was falling down from the deep and, you know, terrifying types of anticipation. Now I'm in medical school, the dagger is in my hand. It's bloody, it's bleeding. But I can say that now I can bear it. So, last summer, I spent my summer as a summer intern in one of the most popular psychiatric hospitals in the United States. There I have learned something, and it actually gave me another reason to become a psychiatrist. They said, I've learned there, the residents, the doctors, they said, every year, every season, finals and, you know, midterm season of the college around the area, undergraduate students just like you, they seek for professional help. They come visit us. It's not because they failed in their tests. It's not because anything else. It's because the harmful and emotionally, you know, enduring study period. Because you anticipate, like you don't get to see what's the purpose of studying, what's going to be in the end. You just get lost in it. And although, as you may have understood, that I love Venn diagrams, there's something I don't like in this, that the nerd part, you know, like you get good grades and you get enough sleep and you become a nerd. I don't agree with this. Yeah, have you ever, you know, got a moment, like, you talk about something, even at your age, of course, you talk about something and people would stop and look at you, how do you know all this stuff? They would say that. And you would give them to, you would turn them and say, there's a reason why I wear these eyeglasses. You know, I'm a nerd and I'm proud of it. And it could be actually interesting, but nerds do go find other nerds and they get socialized. So, it's not necessarily, you know, a social, you know, a nerd doesn't have to be. Oscar Wilde says you can never be overdressed or overeducated. And I'm trying to say that every college student who started college actually should have, not just medical students, everyone should have a professional approach to study, like professional approach to see what is a test about, see what's going to be the outcome of it, and don't get lost in it. Because although you see, like, in a medical student, I have spent 15 years, and there's probably another 15 years ahead of me that I'll be studying, it's actually the same in pretty much other careers, like whether you want to be a lawyer, whether you want to be an engineer, because if you want to specialize in your subject of area, there are like masters, there are MBAs, there are PhDs, because if you get a PhD, they're going to pay you more. And there are other many, this seminar, this education. Education takes a long life, a pretty long time. And between the transitions of these education opportunities, like from undergraduate to graduate, there will be exams, there will be tests. And during those tests, they're going to ask you questions. Some of those questions are going to be sensible questions, but some of them are going to be irrelevant. And when you see a question that is the answer of that question is an utterly useless fact, they ask about something really not necessary. Just keep calm and remember, they're testing you. They're testing you whether you really want to continue. Do you really want to get that PhD? Are you sure? You don't want to do that. If you're sure, they're testing you. So keep calm. That's my general scheme of what I understand from studying. Whatever. That's why when I say like I'm a medical student, but I think I would be successful whatever I study. But like if I decided to become an engineer, I would have done that. If I decided to become, I don't know, a lawyer, I would have done that because studying is the same. Passing the test, getting good grades is the same. And the first step for that is that realize what is not to be on the test. It's important because if you miss this one, you're going to memorize everything. You're going to try to memorize everything. So realize what is not to be on the test, understand the facts, memorize the details, practice with sample questions, meaning what was asked the year before, or before that. And review the procedure. That's what about getting good grades and becoming a successful student in your school life. Now, if you acknowledge this and you decide not to study, like, okay, I know, if I study, I'm going to pass. But if you don't study, don't look the grade, we'll give you the heads up, And your professors also think the same. If you don't study, you're not going to pass the test. I'm not going to talk about how to study more effectively because I think that it's more of a professional matter, more of a personal matter. Everyone discovers its way of studying to their taste. How you learn better, you study that way. And sometimes your professors won't agree with you anyway because there are situations, there are like knowledge, there are data that I say, why do I have to memorize this? I have Google. Why do I need to do that? And they give you, I'm going to ask it on the test. So, if you want to pass the test, you're going to memorize it. So, just stay professional, just keep calm in those situations. I love this word. My friend said it. I have never let my schooling interfere with my education. This gave me the wow, he got it like years ago. And actually, there's another proverb from Albert Einstein. It's almost like an answer to that. I didn't put it on the slides. He says, only thing interferes with my learning is my education. It's almost like an answer to this. So when I heard that, I realized maybe we shouldn't really touch genius people. Like, we should just leave them. They learn better when they're alone. We shouldn't try to educate them, sort of thing. And when I talk like this, people say like, you sound school life's so boring, school life's so meaningless, then actually why do you go to school? What do you say to that? And I'm saying, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just distinguishing the schooling between education, because schooling includes those tests, you have to pass those tests, you have to cover those data, and you have to answer questions. But education is something else. And when I look back, the most moments, the most loved moments of mine was not actually the stuff I learned in school, stuff I learned during my summers. I wanted to take extra courses in the areas that I was interested in. I took drama classes because I was interested in acting. And those were the most educative moments that those that I'm thankful for being here. And you have heard Sir Ken Robinson, or you have heard, Professor Stephen Koch here. we think about how to educate better, how to change our school systems in a better way, but there isn't a better way. There is no perfect education system all over the world. Now they're trying to implement a project, No Child Left Behind in the United States. And there's a big dropout rate. They actually leave school, high school students like you in Europe, because they don't want to pursue higher education. And we change our natural university entrance or high school entrance exam every 3 to 4 years. And like each year, they get even an uglier name. Right? Who puts the TO, the last one? Who does that? I don't know. So there isn't a perfect way of schooling, except, of course, Hogwarts. School of witchcraft and wizardry. That was perfect, but you don't get to have that. So, whenever you find yourself stu-dying, you're studying but you're actually dying, stu-dying, I just want you to keep calm, be cool, take it easy, stay professional, and say, no, I'm a student and I'm rocking it, so I'm stu-rocking it. Thank you very much.